beautiful soul. Welcome to Strawberry Shift, where we're all about enthusiasm for love. Today is day 7 of Celebrate Compassion. Congratulations, you did it. You completed the entire week. Well, we're finishing the entire week on day 7. I'm proud of you. This is a big deal. You know, this is deep work. And so I want to give you a tip right away. First off, I want to take a moment and celebrate with you and acknowledge you. Very few people have bandwidth and the desire and the willingness to do this type of work. So I really applaud you and thank you, because the ripple effect of this is huge. The more of us that learn how to go inside and truly forgive and love ourselves, that impacts everybody around us in ways that our earthbound minds can't even comprehend. So my excitement of you being here on day 7 is genuine, and I'm celebrating with you. Now, when I've taken clients through this framework, and I use this framework with clients, that's how I came up with it, and that's how I know it works. When I've done this with clients, if I have a client that's going through a really hard time, especially a client who's grieving a loss, whether it be a loss of a loved one, a divorce, going through a big job transition or moving, or just a lot of stress, like a lot of just density, a lot of heaviness. So if that's you, if you're like, Mandy, I am in it, this is hard, here's what I recommend. Is you're going to complete day 7, and we're going to celebrate that you completed day 7. And what I recommend is you go back to day 1. Yes, go back to day 1 versus going on to day 8, and go through day 1 through 7 3 times, back to back. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back to back 3 times. That is going to make such a difference. Most people, and you can check in with me and our community here at Strawberry Shift with how you're doing. What I've found is that most people, after going through this 3 times, it's like we're peeling away the layers. If you watch one of my videos where I talk about, the essence of who we are is love. And I like to use the metaphor of like a beach ball. You've seen those big, beautiful beach balls. You ever played with a beach ball like in a pool? And you try and like push it down in the water, right? And it pops right back up, right? So that's who we are. We are love. And if we didn't have any trauma, if we didn't have any fear, we'd be like Elf. I love that movie Elf. I think we all love that movie Elf because we could relate that that's kind of who we are. I mean, we don't have to act and have, Will Ferrell's wonderful personality, but we all have this innocent, pure love inside us that we feel it, we want to give it, we want to share it. So what happens though is trauma. What's trauma? Trauma is a disconnect from who we really are. Trauma is not the external event. Trauma is not the abuse. Trauma is not the assault. Trauma is what happens inside. And so trauma is like the hands going on the beach ball and it's pushing it down. So what happens to us humans? And trauma constricts. It's like we get amnesia and we forget who we are. This is why my body was producing migraines, because I was forgetting who I really am. When I started removing the density, I started removing the trauma and healing it. It's like then we are our true selves. I know it may sound like I'm oversimplifying it. It does work that way, but actually going through it as a human, that's why I'm a big fan of us coming together and being in this conversation. So again, thank you for being here. Congratulations. So if you need to go through day 1, go through this week again 3 times, then give yourself that gift. Remember, this is not a race. This is not a competition. We're so conditioned, aren't we, to worship speed and productivity. We got a Starbucks on every corner. We sell liquid crack in a can. This is not a sprint. This is not a competition. Take care of yourself. Now, if you're in a place where you're like, Mandy, I'm feeling good, I forgave myself, day 6, let's do this, I'm ready, then you could move on to day 8, which I know you're gonna absolutely love. We have so much fun with week 2 and 3. You really start to feel even more of that joy because you start to share it. But let's talk about day 7. After we forgive ourselves because there was this shame there, right? So shame has this like heavy, dense energy. So when we forgive, it removes that shame. It's like, oh, so we have that space. And whenever we have space, we need to fill it with something. It's how law of nature. And so we want to be very conscious and deliberate with what we fill it with. Otherwise, what happens is usually shame comes back. We usually repeat old patterns. So this is why day 7 is all about radical self-love. So day 6 was about radical self-forgiveness. Day 7 is about radical self-love. Now you might be thinking, okay, so Mandy, how do I do this? Well, for each of us, it's going to look different. This is where it's going to be really beautiful for you to connect with your heart and to get to know what it is for you, what it's going to look like for you to show yourself this love. Something that I would recommend is to do like a heart meditation. One of my favorite apps is Triple Flame, if I haven't mentioned that to you before. And there's one called Heart of Peace. Oh, it's seriously one of my favorites. That's a really good one if you need to like a guided meditation to connect with your heart. You could go for a walk and dedicate it with connecting with your heart. It's so important to get your body relaxed, to get away from, I know you're obviously using technology to watch this video, but to get away from technology and to connect with nature, and most importantly, to quiet the mind. Ask yourself, how can I show myself love? Very simple question. How can I show myself love? Because when you think about it this way, imagine you got into a fight with a friend. And imagine, let's just say in the scenario, the friend really messed up. It was more of the friend that made the mistake. And the friend came back to you and asked for your forgiveness. And so you forgave your friend because you love your friend and you know your friend's human, okay? Well, that's not enough to repair the friendship. Just forgiving, that's phase 1 and that's beautiful and that's awesome, but that's not enough to repair the friendship. Now we need to fill it with something because now like there was this boulder. This is why when couples and friends who get into a fight and then they forgive, when they replace it with love, they're stronger. They're actually closer together because they're like, you saw my ugly part, you saw my ugly part, and now you still love me. It's like, what? That's what bonds us. That's why it's like, we use the metaphor a lot of when you break a bone and it heals, it's even stronger. So that's what's happening right now. And we want to heal that. What I have found, what I've experienced myself. So I'm going to share with you what I've experienced myself and what I've witnessed with clients. And I'm going to really strongly encourage you to take a moment to go within and connect with your heart, to ask yourself, how can I show myself love? How can I do this? For me, like I shared with you, I had that shame of the stigma of being divorced. Oh my gosh, right? And then I was able to forgive because I realized I don't need to hang on to that because I don't regret marrying Curtis. And I'm so grateful for our time together. And I'm also grateful that I live in a time period where I, as a woman, can get divorced. I'm so grateful. And I thought about all the women who have lived before me who didn't have this freedom, and all the women and men who helped fight for our rights as women to be able to get divorced if we needed to, and how beautiful that is to have that. And how can I show myself now that I've forgiven myself, how can I show myself this love? Because now we're entering a new chapter. What's an act of self-love? How can I give myself this evidence? So you know how like in a courtroom, and you have a case, they ask for the evidence. It's not enough just to say, I love them, I love her. We got to have evidence, right? And this is different. This is different than the 5 love languages. I'm a big fan of the 5 love languages. My number 1 love language is physical touch and then words of affirmation. But this is different, okay? Because this is about replacing the shame with love. What I've experienced and what I've found is doing an act. So either doing a habit or doing some sort of act to show yourself that you love yourself. I'm a big fan also of affirmations and what we say to ourselves. I have another course and another framework on doing like deep shadow work where we actually look in the mirror and we do talk to ourselves. That's not in this one. So I'm a big fan of that. With this, what I found to be really powerful and effective to give us that shot and to be able to replace that shame, because that shame was heavy, right? It was like, it had some density. I know it did for me. And so to replace it, it requires an act. I'll give you some examples. For myself, I really got in touch with my heart of, okay, now I'm single now, I'm divorced now. How can I show myself that I love myself? And something that I repressed and something that I held back was my very colorful taste and also my very colorful personality. So you'll notice like my colorful lion. I've got one of the things that Kendall and I did is we went to Art in the Park here in Boise, and I got new artwork and I put it on the walls, and that showed me, every day I see around my house, and I have this big, beautiful picture of an elephant and he's wearing these beautiful flowers, and it just makes my heart so happy. And I got that for myself, like that big, beautiful elephant with the flowers, that is symbolic to me because that elephant reminds me of me honoring myself and loving myself. And so I have artwork that I was able to get, because sometimes when you're married, you don't agree on the artwork. And then I did something that I really, really wanted to do, and Kendall went with me, and I got a rainbow tattoo. I got my rainbow tattoo, and this is so symbolic of self-love because I've always loved the magic of the rainbow. I could go into a whole story of the rainbow. I'm not going to do that here. I could maybe do another video where I tell you the backstory of why I love the rainbow so much. But it's really all about the magic. And one of my favorite quotes is by Dolly Parton. You can't have the rainbow without the rain. And then Sweet Kendall has on her left arm the rain cloud. So that's like where we have our matching tattoos, which is so perfect because she really was my rock through this as well. So what is it for you? How can you show yourself radical self-love? In the movies, when someone has that shame and then they forgive themselves, you always see it, don't you? It's not an accident. You always see them doing something to show the audience, oh, wow. Oh, they're loving themselves now. Usually women sometimes will change their hair color, right? I had one client where she always wanted to go to Italy. So her and her best friend, she took some of her savings and she went to Italy. She's like, Mandy, I don't know what I've been waiting for. Like, I have the money. I just thinking that someday will come. And she is now in her 50s. And she's like, now I'm got the plane tickets, and her best friend are going to Italy. And she showed me like the villa that they're going to be going to stay at. And it's going to be so cool. I had another client, she always wanted to get a cat. And she actually talked to her husband, and he's like, I didn't know you always wanted a cat. Let's get a cat. Like he had no issue with it. And she says, it was just in my head because of the shame that she was carrying about something that she did like 12 years ago. And once she removed it, she was like, I really want a cat. And her husband was like, well, then let's get a cat. He was like so cool with it. So what is it for you? What would it look like for you to show yourself this radical self-love? If it's not obvious to you right now, if it's not like popping, if you're not like getting this like tap on the shoulder where, here's how you know it's your heart, by the way. Let's do a review of how you know it's the voice of your heart. Because I've done enough coaching sessions that when I ask clients, what does your heart say? If a client ever says, well, my heart says I should, I go, that's not your heart. So your heart never says shoulda, woulda, coulda. Your heart doesn't do that. Your heart never scares you, okay? Your heart is never mean. Your heart never judges you or criticizes you. Your heart never uses fear, guilt, or shame. Never, 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 never. I like to think of the heart kind of like a very wise, like very loving grandmother archetype, or like a medicine woman or a medicine man, like very, very, very wise and very calm and very certain. So you're listening to the wisdom of your heart when the voice is calm. The heart always whispers. That's why we meditate. That's why we value and cherish contemplation. The Art of Contemplation, Richard Rudd. If you don't have that book, get it. That's why over 90, I would even say 98% of the world's population doesn't listen to their heart. This is my mission. My mission in life is to inspire you to get in touch with the voice of your heart. Because when you do that, you stop looking outside here and you realize, oh, it's inside here. I really feel like I'm the epitome of the Dorothy archetype because I have spent my entire life giving my power away to other things, other people. And then when I discovered, oh, I have the wisest, most powerful, epic guru inside me for free. I just got to breathe and be quiet and trust. It takes courage. It takes courage because we're constantly being programmed and taught to not trust ourselves. And so this is why this is a process. Asking your heart, how can I show myself love? How can I show myself love? What's a baby step? It doesn't have to be big. Bigger isn't always better. Sometimes it could be small. It could be small, like, I had another client where she really missed making herself espressos in the morning because she got rid of caffeine for like health, but she missed the smell of the espresso machine, and she missed like the process of the espressos and like doing that. And so she got decaffeinated espressos, and it was like something so simple, but it gave her so much joy. She was like, I remember her doing like a selfie and sending me a selfie with her like espresso cup, and she's like, don't tell anybody it's decaffeinated, she's like, it was more of the experience and the smell and the aroma. Everybody is going to be different, and this is where give yourself permission to play with it. And I would love to hear what your heart comes up with, and to celebrate with you, to celebrate that you completed day 7 of Celebrate Compassion. And I will see you either tomorrow on day 8, or if you're going to go ahead and repeat, then go back and start on day 1. Thank you again for doing this work. Take care.